Hello, hello.
Good evening.
Good evening. Ooh, my camera is shaking. Hello and welcome to Luna and the Druid. Tonight, we will continue our journey through spiritual awakening. But before we jump into that topic, Jan, I can see that your surroundings have changed a little bit.
It changed a
Where
little
are
bit. Yeah. I'm on one of the Aran Islands off the coast of
you?
Galway on the west of Ireland, the smallest of the three in Ishir. And this is a week I've been going to for 15 years about. I think this is my 14th or 15th time. I go to the last week of June, go to Ishir just to have some fun with friends and
Mhm.
make some music. And I arrived this morning at 11. And just as I arrived, I saw a lovely scene on one of the pubs, and I took a small video. You want to see it?
Yes, please.
Okay, let me do that. It's here. Here we go.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah,
And
that was so funny. You're getting there. You're coming there, and everything is starting. And there's young people, some older people, people my age, and we're just there for a week of anarchy. We call it the week of madness. So there's a lot of fun involved, a lot of teaming up with friends. Many of them who come every year. I have my shaman drummer friend from Wales, and I have a few friends from the US and some from other parts of Ireland and from Dublin, and we all get together and yeah, just have a week of fun. And it's very small. There's only 250 people living on the island, so it's a bit of a free state. So there's no closing times for pubs, and there's no rules. There's no traffic, hardly any traffic. A few locals have a car. For the rest, it's all walking and horse and carriage. Just
mm,
fun. Yeah. And
amazing.
it's very peaceful. Very peaceful.
What I noticed is the sun shining, which sometimes can be rare. Like today in Kerry, everything's very foggy. I can't even
Um,
see the mountains. So it's lovely to see that where you are, the sun is shining.
we all got a sunburn today.
Beautiful, beautiful. And
Yeah,
of course,
lovely.
music connects, and it's a big part of Irish culture.
It is. Yeah.
So I'm glad you're having fun, which is important because when we're going through a spiritual awakening, it's not always fun and it's not always joyful. And today we will continue from where we left our spiritual awakening journey. And tonight we want to talk about misconceptions as well as traps, which are waiting for us during spiritual awakening. Magda says, hello, hello, my dear. So lovely to have you here tonight. However, I prefer to have you here next to me in physical, but life goes on.
And I had
Yes.
the pleasure to meet Magda in person also last week. So hi Magda, lovely to see you last week. And make more. Let's do more. Let's do that more
Oh,
often.
absolutely. I'm 100% in. But just not to make any further delays, spiritual awakening is often misunderstood, and it can lead to several misconceptions about what it involves and what it signifies. So the first one is that misconception that the spiritual awakening and that enlightenment is instant, that it's sudden, it's permanent shift leading to instant enlightenment, which is not always the case. For in most of cases, actually, and in most of people's journeys and experiences, it's slightly different. And of course, it can happen. It can be triggered suddenly. It can be a big revelation, like example you've given a while ago. However, it's the spiritual awakening is usually a gradual process that involves ongoing growth and self-discovery.
That's it. And there's actually a term for so when you're on your path, that there are these moments when you think you're getting it, or you're even getting it sometimes, and it's called a satori in Buddhism. And that's the moment when enlightenment suddenly kicks in. But you can go to sleep, and the next morning you're still the same. Nothing has happened, or it looks like nothing has happened. Of course, things have happened, things have started to grow, but it like you said, it's a gradual process. It takes a long time to really completely internalize it, but you have these moments of, yeah, or sometimes like the light goes on.
Yeah, exactly. And it's never linear. It doesn't go like this. Sometimes we will have that profound insight and then we'll go up, but then there is like walking and climbing the mountains. There is a path that we are going down, really, really down.
Exactly.
And the reason for this is that there is a need for process of integration of whatever we've discovered about ourselves. If you can hear some background noises, my karma is going absolutely crazy right now with her toys. But it is what it is. Another thing which is often perceived, especially for people who are at the beginning of their spiritual awakening journey, is that it's a blissful experience. It can be, it is, however, not all the time. It's not always joyful, it's not always blissful. It is a part of it, absolutely, but often there are times that um, the moments of bliss are followed by moments of facing deep emotions like fear, emotional pain, and inner turmoil, because spiritual awakening is all about healing. So we have to go deep with those deep, sometimes dark emotions in order to face them and transform them. And it is a transformative and very I'm sorry, I am being completely distracted by my doggy who is taking all the squishy toys right now. So apologies for that.
No worries.
But what I was saying is that it's a transformative process that can be challenging and uncomfortable, which karma is just showing me by using a squeaky toy.
Yeah, it's the beautiful thing is that there's so many lovely ways of talking about it. When we have a caterpillar, and a caterpillar wraps itself up in a cocoon, which already is a big process. And then there comes the moment that the caterpillar thinks it's time to come out of the cocoon. And they make a small hole and they squeeze themselves through. And don't try to help the caterpillar to get out of it, because the squeezing is necessary to push the blood from the body into the wings of the butterfly that is emerging. And that's the same process that a human goes through on its way to enlightenment. It's you go through this small, well, even like the birth channel, and you have to push yourself through to become this beautiful, free, and liberated and enlightened butterfly that has always been in there. because
Love.
we don't call it awakening for nothing. Spiritual awakening is like waking up. It's like coming out of the dream state, letting go of the nightmarish, dreamy life full of half truths, deceit, uh, uh, hard lives, hardships, and uh, becoming spiritual. Before spiritual, it's hard, and after spiritual, it can still be hard. But with understanding comes comes ease in the end.
I love that you mentioned a butterfly because the transformation of the butterfly from the caterpillar in the cocoon to a butterfly, it's actually a process where the caterpillar has to liquefy itself first. So it's just whatever's left from that caterpillar is just few cells which emerge and transform into a completely new being, a completely new creature. And this is such a beautiful metaphor of spiritual awakening. And Magda here says, spiritual awakening for me was and still is a journey of climbing many mountains and sometimes tripping, falling, and then on the other side, admiring breathtaking views. Thank you for sharing this because it's such a beautiful definition and such a beautiful example of what spiritual awakening is. Thank you for sharing that. And speaking of Journey, hello, Journey. Unfortunately, I can't read what it says here in the comment. I believe that's like a foreign language. So if you could switch to English, I would deeply appreciate it. But yes, it's just exactly like Magda said, it's not an easy journey. And sometimes we can trip over our own legs using that metaphor. So it's not, I noticed that people at the very stages of their spiritual awakening experience that bliss, that joy, which is a part of it. And one of the stages of it is to come back and return to that period. However, it doesn't last forever, unfortunately, but it serves the purpose. Yes, so moving on. Another misconception I came across is that being spiritually awakened means being detached from everyday life responsibilities and mundane activities. And you often say about this that before spiritual awakening, you have to do the dishes, and after spiritual awakening, you still have to do the dishes.
As before.
Yes. And
Yeah.
to me, spiritual awakening involves a deeper engagement with life. It can give us the deeper sense of purpose and more profound connection to ourselves and to others, as well, to the world, to the nature. However, it doesn't mean that we have to detach. And I'm guilty of that. At some point, I completely disconnected from everyday life, flying on that blissful feeling and beautiful emotions. But it doesn't lead to further growth. It actually causes more problems and more challenges. So I had to face that wall, which I hit at some points. That hey, life goes on, life keeps continuing with me or without me. But
That's it. Yeah.
it is important to be part of it because then I can take control over it. Um, and I think it's important to realize that, awakened or not, we are on this journey for a reason, and that we can control just a little bit. At least we can control the wheel, because sometimes we don't know where the road is taking us. However, we are the ones who should keep hands on the steering wheel and take us where we want to be.
A very important addition to that is the detachment is real, but it's not detachment from reality, but it's detachment from the drama that comes with reality.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
drama, the human Most drama is all in the mind. It's human. It's ego creation. It's ego created. And if you can dismantle that part of it, the part where it hurts, the part where you're emotionally hurt, where the emotional pain comes, and if you can breathe or live or meditate through that, well, then you're really on the road. But detaching yourself from society as a complete person, as a whole, is not the way. I always compare ourselves, like also, we both live a bit remote. I live remote, you live remote in the south of less populated island, West Island. And I always say I live with one leg is out of society. That's what lives on the homestead, on the farm, on the place where nobody cares about us, and we don't care about anybody. But the other leg is in the middle of society, and is in the middle of the traffic jams and the work and the money, and and everything that more or less needs to be done to yeah to keep yourself afloat, and there's a bit of responsibility there as well. And completely detaching yourself from society isn't the way. In Buddhists, they also say, yeah, it's easy to go into to really withdraw yourself completely from society and then become enlightened. But you have to live through all the problems and all the drama and dare stay afloat. That's proper enlightenment.
Exactly. And we'll definitely go back to detachment because it actually creates a spiritual trap, which we're going to touch more on a little bit further during this discussion. But absolutely, I totally agree with you. It is a part, the spiritual awakening required for a moment to detach from everything, to stay within yourself and to be able to go within. It's the hermit part of the journey, which we go deeper during our Fool's Journey, in the Fool's Journey playlist on our channel. However, it's not a goal itself. And spiritual awakening also doesn't mean that all the problems end there, especially personal problems, and the challenges will disappear. And I think that's another big misconception as well, because spiritual awakening doesn't eliminate problems. Very often it actually adds to whatever we had, because we have a deeper understanding and we see more clearly things which don't work in our life anymore, things we should change, transform. Because we have that deeper perspective, that different perspective on things, on whatever's happening in our life.
That's it. Yeah.
Another misconception about spiritual awakening is that people who are awakening have some superpowers or special powers. And yes, during spiritual awakening, very often our intuitions get heightened. We discover psychic gifts. It's not always a case for everyone. For many of us, yes. But it doesn't mean that we become superhumans all of a sudden, or that we are better than those who are not spiritually awakened. It's just a second, because karma is just driving me crazy today.
Yeah. So the part of that side of awakening uh, would be keeping in touch with reality, and you were on there, Luna.
Yeah.
I lost track of what we're talking.
Yeah, it was having superpowers, because
Superpowers. Yeah,
what
of
I was
course. Yeah,
saying is
yeah,
that we develop some psychic skills, which, to be
yeah.
fair, were always within us, but we couldn't tap into them because
Right.
many people will start having visions, they will start hearing voices, and it doesn't mean that they're going crazy, not at all. It's just that we awaken to that sixth sense, we open our third eye because we start to work with energy. We start to clear things. We start to clear our chakras. And then the communication between the physical realm and the spiritual realm, the spirit realm, gets more clear. But it doesn't mean that the spiritual awakening people have superpowers and can do magic. Well, we can, but let's be real.
Well, that's the thing. The thing is, we all have superpowers. We all have super spiritual powers, and of course, we can all do magic. We do alchemy in our daily lives. We transform all the time. So that doesn't. The thing is that with meditation, we get closer to source. We get closer to this other realms, and from these other realms come messages and comes information and comes knowledge. And but it's all, like you said, it has always been there. It's nothing specifically new. It's part of the journey.
Yeah. Another interesting misconception is that once you experience spiritual awakening, it's a permanent state, and you remain in that state, which is not a case at all. And yes, once you've awakened, you can't undo those things. However, this phases of, I'm sorry, it's just karma is doing everything to cause my attention, which is very hard to concentrate on what I want to talk about. Spiritual awakening is a constant growth. It's a process. And as I said earlier, it's not linear. It doesn't happen in one line. It doesn't mean that we're going up and up and up and up. Not at all. It'll be periods of going up. There'll be periods of stagnation, periods of integration, transformation. But there will be periods of doubt and confusion as well. And how many times I see people on this journey, doubting this journey itself, doubting themselves. How many times I came across people who thought they're literally going crazy because it is a challenging experience. It may be painful experience.
Yeah, what I noticed myself, that sometimes it's just good, it's helpful to take a spiritual holiday, and then not a spiritual holiday, but taking a break from spirituality. Just say, okay, now for like you said, it can be a time of integration, or not even. It doesn't even have to be conscious integration, but just letting go of the pressure, letting go of the ideas that you must. Sometimes spiritual awakening becomes a struggle, becomes a fight against whatever is in you, the ego, the old beliefs, and everything. And these things are there, they're real, they're not made up, they're not in your mind, just they're real. And sometimes you just have to overcome them. And that's when you take a break. And then you say, the spiritual world will have to wait for a while. I'm going back to earth with both my legs. I pull my other leg back from the spiritual world and just dwell for a while in the world of muppets and humans.
The best example of it is just what karma is doing today. I'm always very present when I'm talking to you. And she is just like a little gremlin today, trying to distract me, trying to pull me over from here, from my deep concentration, which with ADHD is not always an easy task. And I can see how, like little gremlin, she does everything what's in her power. So I would leave whatever I'm doing here and be with her and play with her. And she's usually asleep at this time of the day, but today for some reason she's very active, which actually proves the point that spiritual journey is not always easy and it's not always predictable, and that sometimes we have to focus more and try harder, or just leave and take a break, just like you said. And I have to just ignore her in order to be fully present here. Otherwise, my mind and my eyes are constantly trying to follow her, because trust me, what she's doing is just ridiculous. But
But
that's
what
my
happens, the thing that happens is that life and your homemate, your dog, is of course part of your life, and life throws stuff at you all the time, and there's no spiritual awakening that can completely free you from that experience.
exactly. And it's also not experience which is the same constantly, same things. It's different, and it will be different for every single person. So even though there are stages of spiritual awakening, it will work out for me completely different that it has for you and for many other people, for our viewers. Everyone
I
will
think
have,
everybody does.
yeah, a different experience, even though we talk about the same thing. So we can't think that everyone will have a similar experience or the same experience. The deeper understanding of it, yes. The deeper meaning of it, yes. However, it will unfold in a completely different ways.
That's what it does.
Mhm. Another interesting misconception is, I noticed that very often those who think or think about spiritual awakening people think that that means that we have to drop our material life, stop focusing on material possessions, just lower our standard, and basically live like a monk with no possessions, no house. This is a really dangerous trap to follow. And of course, if you feel like giving away everything and living a very modest life, if that's what you feel doing, um, it feels right for you, that's the way. However, it can be very, very dangerous, because at the end of the day, life moves on. We still have bills to pay. We
Of course.
still have to have some sort of safety over our head, like have a roof, have something to eat. Um, and it's very often, I notice that people who see spiritual people, or people who work with energies, do the work we do, like reading cards, working with energy, healing, shouldn't take money for this, because they don't perceive this as work. They perceive this as our obligation to do it, rather than an energy exchange, which needs to happen because we are giving our energy away.
Yeah, and then in all honesty, I have roughly an idea what you spend per year on courses and on your personal development. So you're spending a lot time, money, resources, private life to be able to share it with other people. And why wouldn't you get something in return? Unfortunately, there's a good example there. People say, yeah, but the Druids of old, I'm a Druid. Druids of old, they didn't get money because the money didn't even exist. I said, yes, of course, you're completely right. Money didn't exist. But if you went to a Druid for advice, you had to bring shoes, a meal. If your son or daughter would be the Druid's apprentice, the parents would have to pay big in support to the Druid to make it work. So these exchanges in spirituality have always existed, and they're part of life. Because I was in a discussion one time, and I completely killed the discussion, because at one stage someone says, "Where are the true teachers that give away all their knowledge?" I said, and my answer was, "They all died of starvation." And the whole room was was like, "Okay, yeah, well, that's it, They all died of starvation, and we all have to live, like you said. We all have to have food in the fridge, a roof over our house,
Yeah,
above our
bills to pay, exactly.
house.
And
Yeah,
that's very often, especially for people who are not spiritually awakened. They don't perceive what we do as job, because it's not 9 to 5 office job. Um, and I think that's really important. And I can't stress it enough that we are giving a lot of energy, very often even more energy, especially when we're doing healing work.
yeah.
Um, and that requires recognition as well, and that requires energy exchange, because in the universe there needs to be a balance. So we can't just drop everything and pretend that life doesn't go on, because it does. At the end of the day, we live on planet Earth, where are certain rules we need to follow in order to survive. And those rules are, you need to eat, you need to have a safe shelter. And okay, for some of the people it will be a castle, and for some of the people it will be a van, and that's okay. However, we can't lower our, well, we can't, of course we can if that's your choice. However, we shouldn't lower the standards just because I'm a spiritual being. So now I will live a modest life because that's what I should do. No,
No,
the
no, but,
spiritual,
that's the thing. Who says so? You know, who says so?
and
If my
that's why
plumber,
it's a
if my,
misconception.
if my plumber comes to me for a reading, and he says you should do it for free, I say, okay, well, are you gonna fix my tap for free, or
Exactly,
going to install my bathroom for free? No, you don't. No, nobody works for free, and you
exactly,
shouldn't. You shouldn't.
exactly,
It
exactly.
doesn't. And of course, what I also notice, especially for instance, um, is when someone creates like a course or a workshop and asks whatever amount, 200 a day or something, and people sign up, 10 people sign up, pay, and they're all there. And sometimes you see a free workshop and hundreds of people sign up, and you still end up with 10 people. There's no commitment because the value is perceived as worthless because it costs you nothing. I always say you have to feel the pain to make
Mm,
it to accept the value of the thing, you know?
yeah. Well, pain is a part of spiritual journey. And the pain is a part of journey through life, even if you are spiritually awakened or not. Pain will be there. It's a part of the process. It's a part of the experience on planet Earth. Period. Um, and it's all about transforming and learning from that experience, if it's a spiritual awakening or not. Pain serves a purpose, just like joy, love, and happiness.
And if pain doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger. Boom.
My goodness, what's going on today? Anyway, moving
Please
on.
be acknowledged as we do our live show, Laura. That's the sacrifice of today.
This is
So
just
what's our next topic? Let's keep to the lesson.
exactly. Well, those misconceptions very often lead to what we call spiritual traps,
Yeah.
of spiritual awakening, and those are like you. I've experienced many of those, which we're going to talk about in a second. So I will very often speak from my own experience, as well as people who share their journey with me as well. And one of the big trap of spiritual awakening would be what I call spiritual bypassing, which is a belief or practice of avoiding to face unresolved emotional issues, wounds, or personal challenges. And this can lead to incomplete integration of spiritual insights. For example, there is a painful experience which is trapped within the body in a form of trauma. But as a spiritual person, I should forgive, let go, and move on. It doesn't solve the problem. It solves a little bit of it because the big part as forgiveness is there. However, if that's a trapped emotion in a form of trauma, it has to be released. It has to be worked through. We can't just push something under the carpet and pretend it's not there, because at some point it will come back even stronger to get
So
us.
the,
Yeah,
the metaphor that there is that your spiritual awakening is like a crystal bowl, bowl, and if you say let it go, you just let it go, and it falls into 1,000 pieces. And if you put it down carefully, if you integrate the movement of the awakening, of the care that you have for it, then it leads to awakening. But uh, just saying, oh, I let it go. I always let it go. That's bypassing. Letting it
Yeah,
go because you're so spiritual and so big into meditation, and you can let everything go. That's not really true.
absolutely. And the best example would be myself going through a breakup and a divorce after my marriage has fallen apart. I immersed myself in meditation, in daily affirmations, and I was avoiding that pain. I was happy that I got out of it, but at the same time I was pretending that I can't see that pain. I just pushed it away, and it affected my mental health after a while, because at some point I had to face it, and because I was avoiding it, it came back stronger, so I had more to deal with. So it is important to remember that spiritual awakening is not pretending that bad things don't happen. They do. It's just dealing with them in a slightly different way. But we can't use spiritual awakening and spiritual practices to mask it. We should use them to heal rather than run away from them.
Yeah, not face them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, from that comes when you're awakening. I occasionally meet people who are awakened, as they say, and then they present themselves as better than others.
Mm.
Ego inflation,
Yeah,
ego inflation. That's one of the
that's
big.
my favorite.
That's I think that's the biggest trap of spiritual awakening. I'm awakened now, or I'm spiritual now, and now I'm better than everybody. I can talk about it all day. I know everything, of course. They took one course or read one book, and they know everything all at once. And of course, when you don't know what you don't know, you think you know it all. And with knowledge comes always the knowledge gap that you see. Okay, when your knowledge grows, you know that you're following a moving target, and it looks like the target is always moving faster than yourself. So no, you're not awakened. On the other side, I also see lots of people who awaken into modesty, which is also an ego trap, actually. Saying now you know, I'm less than you because I'm so spiritual. I'm not important anymore. I don't count anymore. It's the same story. Just be yourself. The one you were before, and you're the one that was the one that's after the spiritual lessons.
Yeah.
If
Well,
you
in
if
my
you
go ahead,
if you
sorry.
if you change a lot, then you lose yourself. Always be yourself.
From my experience, my observations, actually the spiritual ego is sometimes can be even bigger than the normal three-dimensional human level ego, and it's harder to overcome because though that spiritual elite very often is very judgmental towards others, especially those who have not awakened yet,
Yeah,
or they think, as you said, they know better, and just because your experience is like this, you don't know enough because my experience was different, I know better. And that's very common, and I see this in the spiritual environment a lot, actually. That's usually happens on the very first stage of awakening. However, not always. And that's something hard to overcome because it's hard to realize that that spiritual ego is a trap and it actually does exist. Yeah, it's a big trap, absolutely. And it can actually create a lot of distance, a lot of isolation, a lot of detachment, and it affects relationships
it does. Yeah, it does.
in a negative
But
way.
it works two ways actually. So it can work in a way that one in the relationships awakens and the other doesn't. That's not necessarily a problem. if both can live in acceptance with the situation. But a lot of times, I know people that one party in a relationships uh, awakens, the other one becomes judgmental, and boom, it goes away because
Yeah.
that's the power of it as well, and one of the threads and traps that is so strong that if the other tries to suppress it, you're lost, you're gone. Don't suppress it, not in yourself, and don't let anyone else suppress you in your spiritual path.
I think the best
And
solution
there
will
we
be
have
just
our
to grab
producer
our
herself.
producer because I can see my camera shaking because she keeps walking around it.
Yeah. So just for the good cause, Luna and the Druid is the first product of a company called Karma Productions, of which our little doggy is the
Yes,
owner and sole shareholder and CEO, of course. So she takes care of everything. Uh, she's the facilitator of the show,
yeah. And she came
Karma
to tell me
Productions.
that my camera is moving.
Yeah, and she forgot that she was doing it.
Yes. Moving on.
Moving on
Yeah.
to attachment to spiritual experience.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's a big one. That's a
that's a
big
big
one.
one. Yeah,
When spiritual practices and that sense of bliss becomes the goal itself of our life, and that we get attached to that joyful and blissful feeling, and that's what we want to experience all the time. And this can create a dependency on those positive feelings, which can actually prevent deeper growth, because growth happens in the darkness. Growth
that's it.
happens
That's it.
through challenging experiences, not just the bliss, joy, and that spiritual high we can experience, because it's a beautiful state to be in. Don't get me wrong.
Of course.
It's lovely when you just fly on love and light, and life is beautiful. But life is there to be experienced with all of its aspects. And yes, that's a goal, to have those lovely days than challenging days. But if the challenging day is on the menu, we should embrace it as well.
Yeah. So when you feel this idea of uh, I'm anxious because I think I should meditate. No, not I want to meditate because of my anxiety. No, I become anxious because I'm not meditating. That's one of the traps. Then your meditation becomes the goal and not the way. Because meditation and awakening is a way. It's a way of doing. It's a way of living. And
Exactly.
it's
And then
and
some people will chase that bliss, getting themselves into situation which technically should bring them more and more bliss. But what they do is, very often they just put themselves under pressure or create more troubles in their life.
yeah,
So that's important to remember, that spiritual awakening, it's not about bliss. It's a result, and that's the effect of it. However, it's not a constant thing, and we need to allow it to not to be a constant thing, because then life can get really disappointing if that feeling is gone. And I can assure you, one day it will.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, and from that automatically comes the next idea we had is the false sense of completion. Oh,
Mm,
I'm there. I read so and so many books, that so and so many courses, have meditated for so and so long. I know it now. We talked about it earlier, but it's like chasing a moving target, and you lose the target out of sight and think, okay, the target is no longer there. I am there. I have arrived. Woo, no.
yeah.
In all honesty, I think we can say that none of us will ever arrive there before we arrive at the end of our lives. It's uh, we're just humans, and we're on the path to we might be on a path to enlightenment, but it's an ever moving target. And even if we stop developing ourselves, the target moves away, gets out of sight, and we think, oh, we're there. No, we're not there. Then the world kicks in. Then karma starts playing with your stuff, breaking things that you were attached to, and boom, and all spirituality goes out of the window. Whew.
And speaking of karma, Magda says karma is definitely in charge. She brings such a lovely energy to your live shows. She does, however, not today. Today
Yeah,
is a challenge.
yeah, yeah. No, no, no. You know what she's today? She's the teacher.
Absolutely. Absolutely, she is. And I can see it clearly. That's why I'm smiling and looking at her, because today she's just going out of her way to get me out of the state.
Yeah, yeah. To get you out of your zone. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but it requires more than that. Um, and it's important to remember that spiritual awakening is a process, because if we will forget about it, and even if we will reach a sense of enlightenment at that stage we are, that type of approach can actually stop further growth, can stop creating negative patterns in our life. Um, Not to mention that it may create spiritual ego as well.
Yeah, yeah. So integrate, work with it, grow yourself, help yourself, but never stop learning. Yeah,
Mm, yeah,
and
exactly.
don't and never think that you're better than anyone else, because you're not.
We all have different experiences. We all have different paths and different journeys, different lessons to experience, different
Yeah,
karmic lessons to play and work with. So it's my experience is not better than yours, and your experience is not better than mine. And even
no,
if somebody has done more spiritual practices, had more rituals, blah blah blah, it doesn't mean that they are more awakened, they are more enlightened. It can be the case, obviously, but we can't compare each other to, oh, my spiritual journey and your spiritual journey, because it can't be compared. It's an individual path.
it's like we all walk on a big mountain, and someone walks the path here, someone walks the path there, and neither of the paths are inferior or superior to the other. There's sometimes the other might look higher, but then there's a gap, and the other thinks I'm low, and then there's a big way up. So we all walk our path on the mountain of spiritual growth, of understanding. And we all might have the same goal in mind, which is the peak, the top of the mountain, the pinnacle, and but we're all on our own path, and we all have our own speeds and our own setbacks and helpers and everything. So yeah, we're all
Exactly.
we're all equal.
Exactly. Next point is something I am guilty myself a lot, which is neglecting practical life. At the beginning of my journey, I was so into spiritual practices because I've discovered this whole new world, this whole new blissful and beautiful experience and feeling and state of being, that I actually started to neglect real life, practical life. I took a step back from work. I was a manager, making decent money, working hard, but making decent money. And all of a sudden, my physical existence stopped being important. And I took a step back from a daily life in order to be more present within my spiritual life. And that led to certain challenges and certain aspects of life which I had to take care of later. But it was way harder than if I would be more rooted and more grounded within the practical and physical life. Because with a spiritual awakening, it is important to have solid roots and then grow like a tree. I skipped the part of rooting myself and just went high up, and then the landing was painful.
And you had to begin all over again.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, and it's great to go to retreats. It's great to um, have beautiful spiritual practices every day. However, we talked about it a little bit before, that at the end of the day, we still have bills to pay and we still have to take care of a daily life. And spiritual life cannot suppress it and cannot take over, because where it leads to imbalance, and spirituality is all about balance, it's all about tranquility, and that kind of feeling of temperance as well, where there is no high and low, but more of a like a
An equal
like a
flow.
weighing scale, balancing all the time.
And yeah, and of course, from that we come to why we're doing it. Are we doing it for ourselves, or are we doing it for external validation? And
Mm,
that's related to the ego trap, of course, and that's also related to uh, the big issue you sometimes have with masters and gurus and teachers and spiritual teachers and enlightened masters and the ascended masters, even, who don't even live on the plane of earth anymore. Sometimes they're still alive, and yeah, seeking validation from others as a reason for being. That's
mm.
a big step.
Um, yeah, it's, as I said, I've been there. I became more focused on my spiritual growth, and even though I didn't want any approval, because my journey was actually the opposite, because I was completely pushed away by my group of friends because they didn't understand me. Um, However, that's very common that people
Yeah,
start to seek validation because, oh, I'm a spiritual now, so I'm a better person now. So I will scream and shout and show the entire world through social media how spiritual I am now. And it makes me a better person. Or I've done this retreat and had this and that medicinal plant ceremony, and now I know better, and now I am better because of this. And yes, love me for that, approve me for that. I'm your guru now, so praise me because of that. And that path leads to nowhere.
no, it leads to complete ego takeover. It leads to harm, to actually to physical harm in many cases um, where gurus just lose sight of everything they're doing it for and think they have, yeah, they're better than others. So it's very, yeah, the validation is very attached to the egotism that we talked about before. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And where does that lead to? Of course, that's where we get to spiritual shopping.
Yeah, using spiritual practice to attain material success,
Yeah,
power, or
yeah,
status. And I
yeah, but
think
also, yeah,
using example of many spiritual gurus who talk about spirituality and they teach people one thing, but their behavior is completely different. And they overuse that power and they mislead people in order to gain things for themselves. And that
yeah,
spiritual materialism um, is something which unfortunately is growing. Many people use spirituality to gain, to make money, to gain their own private purposes, but it's not coming from the place of love, it's coming from the place of greediness.
yeah, yeah. And there's two ways there. Of course, there's, on the one hand, there's the people who uh, continuously um, take on more knowledge and more courses and more material to grow and forget to bring it into practice because there's nothing, essentially, there's nothing wrong. Um, with once you attain something and you integrate it with sharing it, we do it ourselves on our channel. We're sharing we sharing our knowledge, and we share it because we love to share it. We love to talk together. We enjoy this space and being here with our viewers and with our doggy and and together. We love the time we spend together, and that's a completely different reason um, than just material greediness. Yeah, of course, and there's this element of temperance, and there's this element of balance there where you can be just marketing yourself, selling yourself, or find your balance there with giving and receiving.
Yeah.
Love it.
Um, is there somebody knocking on your window?
No, nobody. Not even me, not even myself. Maybe I'm moving a bit, and
um,
that kicks it. But
anyway,
there's
there is
nobody knocking on my window. There's nobody here. I'm blissful, peaceful isolation.
all sorts of weird things going on. Before we go into something you already mentioned, which is isolation, guilty of that with my both hands. Iron Fire Horse says hello. I just made a promise to myself lately to get back to my practical and spiritual life. That's such a beautiful promise to make and to keep, and will be doing balancing act you talk about, Luna. Exactly. Sorry, I missed that comment earlier on. But I believe that's the purpose of spiritual awakening, is to balance the life of a spirit with the life of the earthly mothers. And yes, sometimes we will go super, super high on that experience, but at the end of the day, the goal is to integrate those two words into one which can coexist and where we can co-create from our beautiful, fulfilled life.
Mm.
Yeah, life we can share with others. But very often, and as I said, I was guilty of that. And I observe many people who actually go through that journey as well, which is journey on your own, in isolation, and withdrawing from social interactions, from people in general, because sometimes it's very hard to relate to people who are around us, but it doesn't mean that we can't find the way to integrate ourselves. And yes, sometimes spiritual awakening will force us to change our relationships, to leave people who don't serve our well-being behind, and then move into the new connections. But spiritual journey, if it's alone, it can be very painful and very sad, actually, because at the end of the day, we are social beings. Humans need other humans. And if we isolate too much, that can lead to depression, anxiety, uh, an unfulfilled, unhappy life. And that's not what spiritual awakening is all about. And I've been there for many years, actually, that I felt very lonely, rejected by my environment I was in. I was going through that path. I couldn't, for a really long time, I couldn't even speak up. I felt very lonely, not understood, which led me to withdrawing from people. I ended up in the mountains in the middle of nowhere, and I thought I am happy where I was for a really long time. But one day I just woke up really lonely, and that's when I decided to change and go back to people, because that's when I realized that I'm actually a social person and I need people. However, we need to be aware that we need to find people who are like-minded, like the new version of ourselves, because those old relationships mostly won't work. They might, but they may not. Uh, but we need to understand that as humans, we need another human. We need conversations, we need touch, we need being close, we need connections in order to have fulfilled life and our mental health balanced.
That's so true. That's so true. What shall we do, Luna? Shall we do another episode on spiritual
Mm,
awakening next week or in 2 weeks?
yeah, I think we could. There is like few other aspects which we didn't even touch on, and I didn't even realize that we've been talking for an hour
We
already.
did, we did, we did. Yeah. Yeah.
So how about we will put a pause here again
Yes, and
and take
then
this to a next episode. That would be part number 4, I believe.
yeah, part number 4 of
Especially
this
that
one.
there were still few questions we didn't even have a chance to answer about
So we do
spiritual
the
numbers, books. So yeah,
part
I think
4. Part 4 is a wrap up, as a bringing it all together, integrating it. Integration is a big part of spiritual growth and awakening. Integrating it into one big final part.
yeah, that's a good
I
idea.
suppose. And
Um,
we might want to do that in 2 weeks because as you know, I'm starting my holiday now, but next week I'll probably be a bit further in, and we'll leave the show to you
yeah,
again.
maybe I'll do maybe an episode. Maybe I'll take a holiday. We'll see.
Oh, we'll
Um,
we can discuss that. Yeah, of course.
yes. But let's put a pause on this discussion today. It's quite unexpected, but everything today was unexpected.
Of course.
So, yeah, thank you so much for tonight. I can't believe how time went through quickly today.
Yeah.
It's just mad, but time flies when you're having fun and those discussions, especially about spiritual awakening. It's something so close to my heart. Thank you so much for being here,
Yeah.
sharing your time and energy with us here. It's a pleasure, and I really appreciate you, Jan, connecting. Even though you're on holiday, you still showed up tonight.
I will miss it for the world if I
Thank you
can.
for this beautiful, beautiful energy and lovely discussion, which I think is really important because I think it's not talked enough because spiritual traps and spiritual misconceptions are a real thing and they can affect our the everyday life, so it is important to address it. If you're watching this and if you would like us to talk about something else or share your experience, please do in the comments and we'll definitely come back to it in 2 weeks when we'll be together again in front of the screen, sharing our knowledge, wisdom, experiences. And yeah, with that said, I said it all in one breath. So let me catch a breath now. And yeah, see you next time.
So, see you next time. Thanks so much. Bye
Thank you
bye.
guys for joining and thanks for wonderful comments and your insight as always. And please share more.